Keir Starmer's poll ratings are now below Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. That is how low his poll ratings are. The only people celebrating that Keir Starmer would be taking the Labour Party into the next general election is his opposition. Yeah. We all want him there because he is such a lame duck. The chutzpah of this Home Secretary to say that she was going to crack down on immigration, to say that she was going to bring in this Danish-style crackdown, that she saw that illegal immigration was tearing the country apart, and that's what she was planning to do. Because remember, Shabana Mahmood is the person who wanted an amnesty for all illegal immigrants.
Reeves, I guess, has locked herself away in her office with her advisors and she's trying to see which grandma she can rob next for tax.
And we've seen today in a poll, people were asked, did you think the economy was in a very good state? And she got zero people thought the economy was in a very good state. And in another poll, she's got the worst pollings on record of any chancellor.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi, and today I'm joined by the beautiful Tory MP Esther McVey, aka the Westminster Whisperer. Loving the suit today?
Why, thank you very much, you silver-tongued fox, you. Yes, loving the intro.
So, Esther, let's get straight into it. What hot Westminster gossip have you got for me today?
Well, what a week it has been. And all I can say in the Labour Party now, it is open warfare. They want Starmer out. Some of them are taking bets and they think it's a 50% chance he's out by Christmas if that budget is bad. And worse for him, there's now a senior whip who's going to be prepared to be the stalking horse by which to get him out. So we couldn't be on a more precarious footing at the moment. And obviously that nonsense that he did last week, which Prime Minister would go to an array of newspapers and say, my cabinet hate me so much, they want me out. It's Wes Streeting who is the main ringleader, and this is what, and then Wes had to go and defend it. He did much better because he's much better on the media than Starmer. Starmer then had to say, oh, it didn't come from number 10, and they all did know came from number 10. But the plot is thickening. Who's going forward and which groups of the Labour backbenchers are meeting.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a term there, stalking horse, just for our listeners and viewers who don't know what that actually means.
So that is somebody who's going to be prepared to put his name forward to say, I'm going to challenge him.
Okay.
You saw it with Owen Smith against Corbyn. As it was, Corbyn then stayed on the list, as Starmer will, expect to do, to go to the members, and he didn't win. But in this instance, the members so now dislike Starmer, and the more to the left of him, the odds are he could lose. But what is dangerous when I say the different groups who are meeting and who are plotting, there's a group of sort of left-leaning MPs called the Tribune Group, started in the 1960s. There's about 80 to 100 in that group. They held a meeting the other night. They've got the numbers. They need 80 MPs to go forward who could back the stalking horse and get them out. And people in that group are people like Angela Rayner, and she was meant to be there at that meeting to try and get him out.
Wow. Okay, so you've got Wes Streeting, who we think is going to be a contender, Angela Rayner. Anyone else? Any of the big fish names?
Oh, yes, you've got quite a few now all thinking that they've got a chance and they will go forward as well. And obviously you've got the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. Yeah. She's also going forward for it. And then you've got those familiar names like Ed Miliband on the left who will also go forward. But the odds are people are now, or the clever money is on probably Angela Rayner beating Ed Miliband, even though he would still come top of the pile. They think Angela Rayner will win. And you remember, this week she's been going round to potential cabinet ministers, Angela Rayner, saying, if I win, I would give you a seat in the cabinet. Oh. You might have also heard in the newspaper, and I was looking at the timings, remember she said, would you go on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here? They offered it. Now, she obviously needs her £40,000 because she hasn't paid that yet. And people are questioning how she's going to pay a stamp duty. Well, she could take a loan from the trade unions, or she could get a donation, just register it. But she could have got the £40,000 from I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Right.
Now, there were two things at the time. Her advisors thought, well, you don't want to go in there. You don't know how it'll be edited, and all your tax issues might be brought up again. Worse still, the trust issue, as in the trust that was meant to be for her disabled son. How did she get the money out? So all of that would come out. But I looked at the timing, and it started Sunday the 16th of November. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. It usually runs for 3 weeks. Now, she could still be in if they do an attack and a sort of try and get rid of Starmer after the budget on the 26th. So she possibly also would have thought, I don't want to be in there because it could all be happening and I'm in Australia. So there was lots of things sort of going on, and I think that is quite interesting. And also you might have seen the first Labour MP has come out and openly said, Clive Lewis, he needs to go. And then he's also said yesterday, I would be prepared to give Andy Burnham my seat should he want to come back in the House, because I'm putting country before my party, and everybody hates Keir Starmer that much. We want him out. Now, that possibly might not happen, but the fact that people are saying it is a problem. And this is what I hear all the time in the House of Commons, whether they're saying it to me, Labour backbenchers are so upset, or if they're sat in sort of groupings. What has Keir Starmer delivered in 16 months? A massive majority. He's been in charge. What have they delivered? And they all say absolutely nothing. Worse, he's just delivered one disaster after another. The economy's going from bad to worse. He didn't want to do the National Rape Gang inquiry, then he did. He sort of flip-flops on everything. The farmers, the winter fuel tax, everything they say is terrible. And then he's obviously, Keir Starmer now, which was equally embarrassing, had to come out to a paper this week to say, I will be leading you into the next general election. Can I tell you, it's unheard of that within a year a Prime Minister would be saying that. I mean, Tony Blair said it after 3 general elections.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get it after a year. And I will tell you, the only people celebrating that Keir Starmer would be taking the Labour Party into the next general election is his opposition.
Yeah.
We all want him there because he is such a lame duck, but his own backbenchers don't. And it is absolutely poisonous in the House now.
Well, look, you are, as far as I'm concerned, the Queen of the North. So you know better than I do. If Clive Lewis is willing to give up his seat, essentially give up his job, give up his livelihood to give Andy Burnham the chance of taking the seat, what will Clive Lewis do then?
Well, I think that's why, and he's Norwich sort of an MP, and he has said, so he caveated it on the programme, I'll have to see what my wife said, what am I going to do? So there was a lot of that. So I don't know if he would. But can I tell you how dangerous it is that people are saying, I would do that. So you might find another MP who say, well, I'm closer to retirement, or I would be thinking of leaving now. And all I'm saying, each time it is destabilising their boss. And another thing they're upset about is how many times Keir Starmer has been abroad. And there was a very strange evening, Tuesday evening. He flew out the country to go to Berlin just for the evening to see, the German Chancellor, Emmanuel Macron and him. Nobody really even knows what that was about. They said, well, how come? David Lammy has said, I don't want you out the country anymore. Well, we can understand why that is, because he doesn't want to do PMQs again. He doesn't. And then he flew back to do PMQs. He's flying back out tomorrow night as well, Keir Starmer, for the G20, and he will be back Sunday morning. But even his left-leaning MPs are saying, bloomin' heck, he hasn't even planted a tree and he's forever on a private jet. He needs to do something for the environment. Yeah. Why do you think the Green Party now is rivaling us on the same percentage point? Because Zach Polensky is doing far more about the environment. So there isn't anybody who wants him.
Yeah, but it seems strange when Labour and Starmer are always hammering Nigel Farage for never being in his constituency of Clacton, and yet Starmer's never even in the country.
Yeah. He's been out more times than any Prime Minister this century.
Wow.
He went to, as you remember, it wasn't even COP, remember, it was the pre-COP meeting.
In Brazil.
And that was really just to get a little bit of fame. I think it was a little bit of good headlines from Prince William because of what he was doing. He was out there. He's been to Sharm el-Sheikh. He's been to India. I said he's back out to Johannesburg. And people are saying, why? And I'll tell you for why. Because he can do pronouncements, be the big man on the world stage, give our money away, which is what he's doing. Back home, he's got issues with unemployment. He's got issues with immigration. He's got issues with farmers, with businesses. And so he cannot be the big man. But he flies abroad and he can do all that. And that, usually a prime minister doesn't do that until, much later on. He's doing it now. And he feels happier there. He is an internationalist. He doesn't really, he's not a nationalist. He's not fighting for our country. He's not got pride in our country. He wants to be an internationalist. In fact, I'd say he knows he's going to get out so soon. I think he's handing out his CVs as he's going on all these tours at the moment. He wants to get now an international job.
Right.
And that's what he's touting for.
Okay, so he's got one foot out the door.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other ones are from foot on his back from his Labour MPs pushing him out that door.
Well, let's talk about immigration because Shabana Mahmood, she's promised this Danish-style crackdown. What are your thoughts on this and what's Westminster's thoughts on it? Are people split?
Right. So I have to say, the chutzpah of this Home Secretary to say that she was going to crack down on immigration, to say that she was going to bring in this Danish-style crackdown, that she saw that illegal immigration was tearing the country apart. And that's what she was planning to do. Because remember, Shabana Mahmood is the person who wanted an amnesty for all illegal immigrants, also was saying refugees are welcome here, and also signed that letter, that disastrous letter, stopping foreign criminals from being deported and kept them here. So that's really what she's about. And yet she's decided she wants to go toe-to-toe with reform and out reform. It was as if she was auditioning to Nigel Farage for what she was going to do. But she, too, has her eye on the main job as being Prime Minister, and she understands, well, what has she done so far? Not a lot. Remember, she is also the person who was in charge of that terrible sentencing bill. She's the architect of that, even though David Lammy's taking control of it now. She's the architect of that, so she knows she's got to do something about immigration, and that's why she's brought this forward. But I looked up and I was looking into this Danish system, and actually it's quite interesting there, because what happened was in the 2010s, you had the Social Democratic Party. They were thinking, we're going to lose to the Danish People's Party, which was very much a right-wing party, which would be like a reform party. And immigration was a big issue. So the Social Democrat Party said, we better do something about immigration. We better bring it down to make sure that the Danish People's Party don't work. And they achieved in that. Hence, they brought in a much tougher system. So she's trying to replicate that, seeing reform is the opposition, seeing that reform, all right, double pretty much their polling, they will win. So she's thinking, how do I take the wind out of their sails? The only thing I will say is it can never work what she plans to do.
Why not?
Because she isn't prepared to come out of the Human Rights Act. She isn't prepared to come out of the ECHR. And without doing those two things, fundamentally, none of it can work. So when she says, I'm going to bring in legislation to put the British law above the ECHR, well, she can't. Because the Human Rights Act is British law. She can't do that when she is saying, I'm going to make sure that, we will get rid of families and children and deport them. No, they can't. They'll be using the Human Rights Act to stay in the country. So everything she's talking about, although I would say it was good, it was going in the right direction, she ain't going to deliver it. And remember, this woman is also trying to bring in more safe and legal routes to bring more immigrants into the country.
Whose decision is it to leave the ECHR? Is it Shabana Mahmood, or is it Keir Starmer, or do we have to go through the House of Lords to get this repealed?
Oh, right. So it is for the Labour Party to do. And they've got such a huge majority. Technically, they would be able to do it. But Labour doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Labour doesn't want it. I mean, and the Human Rights Act was brought in by Tony Blair. They're clinging hold of it. And they're using that act for this terrible legacy bill that they want to remove, this protection that we've got for the Northern Ireland veterans. And they now want to use the Human Rights Act to get rid of it, which will see veterans go on trial. So they can't get rid of the Human Rights Act because they're using it so often to do so many, I would call it disastrous left-wing things. And they did that with the Chagos Act. All of these things, they sort of lean on the Human Rights Act. And that's why they can't get rid of it. And so I think we've got to remember who she is, what she believes in, what the Labour Party believe in. So they won't do any of these things. But I don't think Nigel Farage dealt with it that well.
What, asking her to join the party?
Well, no, he sort of said, they were sort of poo-pooing it, weren't they? So the left was saying it was evil and it was terrible and we shouldn't be doing that because the Labour Party does fundamentally believe in open borders and bringing people in. But really, Reform should have said, and I actually thought Kemi Badenoch did very well on that one. She said, no, it's a step in the right direction. We'd be doing more, but it's a step in the right direction. And then what we'll do is agree, lay amendments because it's not strong enough and we'd like them to go further. And then Labour will be left sort of in a pickle about what they're going to do.
Yeah. Well, Kemi said that, she would support the changes. How embarrassing would it be for the Labour Party if the Conservatives and the 5 Reform members all vote in favour of Mahmood's changes and Labour are the ones who don't vote in favour of it?
So you're saying basically the bill is passed on the back of Conservative and Reform's votes.
Yeah.
That would be another disaster for Labour and it would also hasten their demise. And I think Shabana would probably survive and be fine on that, but Starmer as the Prime Minister wouldn't. She has set her stall down for a future leadership bid. So should they lose to Reform, she said, well, if only you'd listen to me. So I feel she's thinking of a long term for where she's going and she's just getting her stake in the ground. But again, it puts a lot of pressure on Starmer. Again, they're all unhappy by what he's doing. And I'll tell you something that's also interesting. This pivot to the right also puts a lot of pressure on Rachel Reeves, because all of the left-wingers are coming to her saying, well, if you're going so far to the right with this immigration act, we want some money for our major sort of issues, the things that we believe in, which was fundamentally benefits. And you've seen her hand over another $6 billion in benefits. So they're in a right pickle. And I would say watch out for sort of Shabana Mahmood, where she goes next. I think she will also be pivotal in pushing Starmer out, but pretty much waiting her time. And the battle there is between Wes Streeting and her a little bit later on.
How have the MPs in Westminster reacted to it? Sounds harsh. In principle, it sounds harsh. Mahmood saying, if you have babies here and you're not from this country, we'll deport the babies and the parents together. How are politicians reacting to that?
Well, the left aren't. Other people are saying, well, hang on, if that's the children and the parents were going home, well, that would be right. You'd be keeping the children with the parents and they would be going home. The thought that, well, actually, you're having to renew your status as a refugee. Well, if your country is no longer of refugee status and you can go back, it's now a safe country, why wouldn't you? What are you going to do? As I said, these are all things really taken from another country's system, but they'll never do that. They have no intention to do that. It's sort of, I thought it was a wonderful performance. I thought she should have got an Oscar for a performance. I thought what she said for the right worked. But she's also part of a group called the Blue Labour group, and she has got sort of support in there. But really, she needs to get a grip on the Home Office, which she hasn't. And that's another reason she can talk all she likes if she hasn't got a grip on that, because you will have heard today that the ringleader of this horrific Romanian grooming gang was literally Home Office officials went in, so he's waiting to be sentenced for the rape of 10 women, right? He's waiting to be sentenced, and they went in and offered him £1,500 if he'd get on a plane and go back home. Now, that was stopped, but But the fact that the Home Office officials literally went in there while he was in prison, and he would have walked away free with not having had any prison time for horrendous rape. I mean, it was brutal, of 10 women, is an absolute disgrace. So I would say it's all talk up here, and Shabana needs to sort out what went on there. And this is a man now who's been put away for 20 years. And this is another reason some people have also said, we don't want foreign criminals going straight away to their home country if they're sentenced. If they've committed something as horrific and as brutal as this, the victims want to see that they serve at least some sentence.
Yeah.
If they go home, they're laughing all the way home. Shabana and the Home Office and the Home Secretary would have overseen they got a few bob to go back to Romania, and he would never have had any time in prison.
Yeah.
And that is an absolute disgrace. And that's why a lot of people who are really strict on crime, and I'm somebody who's tough on crime, people need to serve the sentence, would say we don't want foreign criminals going home straight away because they do need to have the punishment, and prison is also a punishment, and they need to have that.
But again, I think it's ludicrous that we're going to be paying anyone who's come here on a small boat money to return to their home country, because surely that just incentivizes people to say, okay, I'm going to pay $2,000 to the gang to get me across the channel. I'll get some free accommodation for a bit, get some free food, put on some weight, put on some muscle, enjoy myself with the lads, and then they'll pay me to go back to my home country. And I'll just pay the gang to come back again.
Yeah. I mean, there was one train of thought, if you could give them 500 quid, do you remember they did to the Ethiopian?
Yeah.
With 500, we've got him out the country, and it's cheaper than if he did court case after court case after court case, and he'd circle around, right? However, I would say, and other people would say, you don't want to be in that situation. We don't want them in the country. You need to detain and deport.
Yeah.
It is nothing about you're in a hotel and then you're going to have, court cases and then we're going to give you some money and get rid of you. No, you are detained and deported straight away because you don't want to be in that ridiculous situation.
Yeah.
The people in this country say, blimey, we can't afford the cost of living, and here's these people come over, got some money and gone back. And how does that smash the gangs? What a load of nonsense. They've got another $3,000 or whatever it is to come back. They haven't done the one in out. They haven't smashed the gangs. And I think that's another reason Shabana has brought in this new Danish style, because she knows everything that Labour has done so far hasn't worked.
Yeah.
They've been exposed that it hasn't worked, and she's thought, well, let me try and bring in something else. But like I said, this is just a leadership bid, and she doesn't believe in it whatsoever, and she wouldn't get it through her backbenchers because they don't. And going back to your point, it could go through on a Conservative vote, a Reform vote, and that would be very, very uncomfortable for the Labour Party.
Are the Labour Party MPs, are they walking around Westminster with their heads slung lower? Are they depressed? Are they embarrassed to be part of such a dysfunctional party?
It's funereal.
Really?
At the moment in Parliament. Yes, they are. Some of them are so crushed that they've really got nothing to say. You will see they're not in the chamber because they don't want to support things, don't want to be there. This week was getting rid of or revoking that Legacy Act that was supporting veterans from all of those troubled times in Northern Ireland. And there was hardly anybody there on the Labour benches. They know this is wrong. So you've got that. So you've got those people. You've got people now who aren't in Parliament. Parliament on Wednesday collapsed at about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd call that a zombie Parliament, that people weren't there and people have already gone home. And then who are left are plotting. So you've got the worst of all worlds. You've got the plotters, you've got the despondents who've already gone home, and you've got a very dark mood in the House. And that's why Starmer's abroad, and he'll be wanting them back home in their seats, because there's nothing worse than people in the House of Commons plotting.
Oh, yeah. So with the budget coming up, how much say is Starmer having in this? I mean, he's not in the country most of the time. Reeves, I guess, has locked herself away in her office with her advisors, and she's trying to see which grandma she can rob next for tax. But is there a clash of ideas between Starmer and Reeves, or is he saying to her, fix it and come back to me when you've got a solution?
Well, the two are joined at the hip. So they kind of will fall together, would survive together. The odds are Starmer, because he is mercenary, he will stay as long as possible, and she will be dispensed with when needs to be. She will, for him to cling on there. So he needs her to do something. But if you remember, he's already taken her number 2 out of the Treasury to put with him in number 10, Darren Jones, because he was bolstering himself up. And I think he'd already moved Darren out to be separated from this budget, so that if he pushes Rachel over that sort of political cliff, right, then he's got Darren to put in straight away. So I think that's why he did that.
Okay.
Now, Rachel Reeves, has got the look of a haunted woman. And I would say she is pacing Parliament like a woman walking to the gallows, because she knows she is for the chop. And she doesn't know what to do right for wrong. She has now got the left, as I said, after her, saying, we want money for this, we want money for that. And she doesn't know which way to turn. She destroyed the economy pretty much in budget number 1. And this was the biggest ever tax rising budget on record. She said, I won't be coming back for any more. This is a once in a lifetime. It was going to fix the foundations. We were going to get growth. None of that has happened. She did a statement in the spring because it was so awful and she was looking for more money. And now she's back, supposedly for somewhere about £30 billion. Again, her backbenchers are saying, you've raised all this money, and again, what are we seeing for it? You haven't looked after the elderly. You're not looking after the vulnerable. You haven't looked after, haven't sorted out anything to do with the cost of living. And she doesn't know which way to turn. So she's looked to raise income tax. And again, her party turned on her on that. They went, oh my, this is another breaking of your manifesto promises.
Yeah.
You weren't going to tax working people. You did through the increase in the employment, Nick. Now you're going to do this. So remember, she did a U-turn on a U-turn, which is unheard of pre-budget to have so many U-turns before you've even had the budget, which is like next Wednesday. And now she's after a whole load of new taxes. And all I will say, if it's greater strain on fewer people, it's going to be really, really painful. And that is now what she's been squeezed to do.
So who are you thinking she's going to go and attack then?
Well, business have come out straight away saying, no more on us. You took, the 25 billion just on the employer's nick alone. We cannot take any more money. We're going to the wall. And we've seen that business confidence is down. Unemployment is up. And we've seen today in a poll, people were asked, did you think the economy was in a very good state? And she got zero people thought the economy was in a very good state. And in another poll, she's got the worst pollings on record of any chancellor. So she is now going to go after, it looks like,
mansion tax?
Yes, and 2 bits of that. She's also going to go after council tax, FG and H ban. So she won't, because they haven't got the money to reband. They're going to push up all of those. And again, looking at if you've got a house worth a few bob and you come to sell it, you'll have to pay a surplus on that. And all I can say, the housing market has now pretty much stopped. There's no construction going on. There's no sales going on. It is pretty much dead. So that is a disaster. So she's got that. She's going to go after the pensions again. She's going to go after savings again, cutting all the ISAs, cash ISAs. She's going to do a tax on motorists. She's coming after inheritance tax. And then all the ridiculous ones, which you might have seen this week, the milkshake tax. So that's more sugar tax, anything sugary like that, which reminds me of the George Osborne pasty tax. It's a disaster before it even starts. She's got a taxi tax on its way and a tourism tax on its way. This is going to be a disaster. Worse still, I get a phone call before I come on air from sort of local police crime commissioners in the local area and chief constables. The budget for policing is going to shrink and they are all desperately short of money. So she is going to have to cut budgets, tax people to the hilt. When people talked about the doom loop, Rachel Reeves is putting us all into a doom loop and they won't have any money left And all I will say, she will be back wanting more money. But all eyes are to watch next week on that budget, and will she be gone shortly afterwards? And like I said, the smart money at the moment, and all people are talking about, I shan't say money is passing hands in the House of Commons, but they're saying if this budget is bad, 50% chance Starmer is gone before Christmas.
Wow. Gone before Christmas.
And they said that would be their best Christmas present for some Labour MPs if he's gone before Christmas. They couldn't have wanted more than that.
On the front page of today's Express, there's concerns that she's going to scrap the triple lock, and then loads of future pensioners are going to be screwed, essentially, in retirement. You think that's likely?
I think she's in such a terrible position, and the one that she felt could have saved her was the increase in income tax, and she can't do it, that she doesn't know where to apply the pressure. And remember, a lot of the things that she's already brought out, she's not getting the money in from. So when she did the non-DOMs, it never created that money. This wealth tax, it hasn't created that money. And what she's seeing, which is really destructive, which again, is the wealthy, the money creators, the job creators, our new talent, the people at university are leaving the country in record numbers. Nearly 250,000 are leaving because they think they can get a better life elsewhere. So when she taxes like this, and the tax on schools was a bad one, because people are saying, well, what do we get in this country anymore?
Yeah.
We're being sort of squeezed every which way on the money, on the finances, crime here. Things aren't being done. The councils aren't cleaning up the streets. We can't even get the schools. We don't want to be here. In fact, I said we had the Labour grandee, didn't we, Mandelson this week, who was at George Osborne's for a dinner party. That in itself I thought was quite shocking. Why were they together? Going outside and urinating on the neighbour's wall next door. Well, I said we've also got the Labour Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, urinating the public's money up the wall. So what is it about Labour grandees, walls and urinating that gets them to do these things? So that's what I think, and I think that's what the world thinks.
Well, super rich man, Dale Vince, he's one of the top 100 taxpayers in the country. He is saying, yeah, tax me more. I think the rich should pay more tax.
Yeah, and if he wanted to, you can. He can write, and this is true, if he wants to send more tax to HMRC, there is absolutely nothing stopping him. So a bit like Shabana Mahmood before, which I was talking about, all performative, love to speak. This is what we'll do. Put your money where your mouth is, Vince, because you can do that. Yeah. And any one of those rich people who want to do more, please do. Actually, it seems a lot of them aren't. They're pretty much here because they want their policies put through in one way or another. Yeah. They seem to have a sort of an open door, an open ear, as he does, as it seems to be, to Ed Miliband saying what we need to do with net zero. No, if people want to give more money, they can. And by the way, that's another disaster. And Ed Miliband, somebody who we don't want as leader, but could be leader, he has just signed us in to an offshore wind deal for electricity, which, mark my words, will be the new PFI of this Labour government. For 20 years, he signed us up to extraordinarily high energy prices through his offshore wind deal. This is PFI, and we know how badly the PFI deals landed with the last Labour government. Well, watch this space. He's just signed us up for higher energy bills, and that's another broken promise because Labour were meant to be giving us lower energy bills.
Yeah, flipping heck. Good grief. So,
have I exhausted you?
I'm super exhausted. I'm going to pass out.
I mean, listen, all the notes I was writing for you, or what was going on. But trust me, people, I feel sometimes, like when you go into church and there's a confessional box.
Yeah.
Right? I feel that is me. People come and tell me. I don't know if I've got an honest face, but they sort of say, this is going wrong. We don't like this, and this is what needs to happen.
Yeah. So Starmer
just
out by...
call me Right Rev McVey.
Absolutely. Starmer out by Christmas.
50, if the budget's really bad. If not,
bad.
you see everybody saying it will be the local elections next year. Okay. And then obviously it's difficult to get rid of a Labour leader. But we've never... honestly ever been in this territory. That's what people are saying. We have never been in such a tumultuous territory.
Yeah.
We've never had a Labour Party so bad. You've never had such terrible poll ratings. Can I tell you, Keir Starmer's poll ratings are now below Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. That is how low his poll ratings are.
Oh, good grief. Well, I feel like the writing's on the wall then for Starmer. He's done.
In
He's
one
done.
way or another. Or, it will be the complete implosion of the Labour Party.
Yeah. Okay, Starmer out. Streeting, Mahmood and Rayner.
And the money's on Rayner to win.
Yeah.
So the money is on Rayner to replace now.
And meanwhile, Starmer's going around the world handing out his CV to
That's
people
what I
saying,
think.
"Give us a job, mate. Give us a job, mate." Wow. Well, I'm going to go and have a nap. Absolutely exhausting. God, thank you very much, Esther McVey.
It's been a real pleasure.
You're a
I feel I've got all that off my chest.
The Whisperer, the Westminster Whisperer.
They don't call me that for nothing.
Absolutely. Good grief. That's all we have time for. Thank you for watching the Daily Expresso. Join us tomorrow where I will be going through the best questions, letters and comments from all of you lovely viewers and listeners. Bye-bye.